What is this damned place? Where am I? Wait, it's the RPG Horror Stories subreddit. How did this happen? Everybody's been blocked!
You're a problem player who deserves our wrath or we'll ban you! Sorry, this post was deleted by the person who originally posted it. Feel free to explain how I did anything wrong. Conspiracy level reaching right there.
OP blocked me. I'm officially siding with the DM. OP doesn't seem to be open to any amount of pushback.
A whole lot of people are really invested in this being a conspiracy post for some reason. Also, blocking isn't censorship.
Traveler, come here. A survivor. Please, tell me what happened here. That guy, he posted to the subreddit. People tried to respectfully criticize, ask questions, but he blocked everyone. Now, there is only ruin and deleted posts.
Oh, that's what happened. Okay. Do you have the story?
What?
Yeah, I kind of want to, read it.
I have the story transcribed on this thumb drive. Please, tell the world of our mistakes.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Appreciate ya! Sacrifice will be remembered.
I recently joined a Planescape campaign forum and the forum's Discord. Then, I got a message from the two DMs/owners. The DMs private messaged me, ranting about how I was unreasonable and trying to play an overpowered character. They claimed they had to intervene 3 times because of my conduct. I don't know what one of them was, but I suspect they're claiming that my character image being slightly too small for the forum rules, which wasn't my fault, I immediately fixed it, was like a personal slight against them. You dare make a low-resolution JPEG? I am personally offended! Die! Bro, what are you talking about? The DM just asked you to make the image a little bigger. The second slight was my character using their ability to disguise themselves to impersonate a number of a casino staff. Rather than roleplay it out or tell me not to do it again, they demanded I undo it immediately and personally apologize because their DMPC owned the casino and they had a massive emotional attachment to both. So anything that happened to them, they didn't approve of in advance, regardless of how small it felt. It was like violating their soul. Keep in mind, there was no way for anyone to know until the DM said so. My character wasn't even using the disguise to rob the casino or cheat. They were just having fun mimicking people. Keep in mind, this is a Planescape campaign, so my character's behavior would barely stand out. The third and final offense I committed was me and another player agreeing to have our player characters play a card game, where my player character would cheat, but the other player character would win anyway. Again, everyone involved agreed on it, and it was made clear between us as player characters. I decided to have my Ooze character, who had been approved by the DM as being incredibly knowledgeable and dedicated to illicit activities like gambling, take advantage of the fact his entire body is capable of tasting things to read the cards he's dealt them by tasting the type and location of the ink on them. Yo, man, what?
You fool! Now all your secrets are mine!
Keep in mind, the only thing my character had done was taste ink on cards to cheat at poker, and I explained out of character how each of my character's class, background, and species abilities played into him being able to do so. According to the DM, doing so was god-moding, reality controlling, overpowered. They had previously approved a PC who was immortal, immune to all disease and poison, and had vast necromantic powers up to 9th level spells. And their DMPC, they were a god inside their casino, despite that going against Planescape setting rules. The point of the Planescape setting was that everyone was to have fun. Actual mechanics are supposed to take a back seat, and it was made clear that player characters agreeing with each other on what they did was the most important thing. I was trying to be as polite as possible. I focused entirely on explaining my reasoning and pointing out that my player characters' powers weren't overpowered, and in fact, were less powerful than the other player characters, especially the DMPCs.
Bro, DMs can play powerful characters. That does not make them DMPCs. Why do I have a feeling these are just normal NPCs?
The DM's response? You'll do as we say, or you'll leave. This isn't a discussion. If you understand why I'm upset that you're a difficult player, I think it's time for us to go our separate ways. Keep in mind, they made no effort to explain or justify their claims. They just went straight to DM Fiat and threatened to ban me because my ooze character could taste ink with his hands. That's it. Again, nobody except them had any issues with anything I had done. Everything was agreed on between PCs, and their evidence I was a problem player consisted of me messing up on character image size once. Bro, the DM never said that. You said that. Flashback! I don't know what one of them was. My other crime was not knowing they were absurdly attached to a specific location and the DMPC in it, to the point that impersonating a staff member for 6 seconds felt like violating their soul, and my character being able to taste ink with his hands. And all of this was from my 3rd ever post on the forum. I took screenshots and sent them to the other players, and he agreed the DM were wrong and that we were having fun. The same goes for the other players. None of them complained about anything I had done. It was literally just the DMs deciding it was bad wrong. I held it back then, but I'm gonna say it now. The Dungeon Masters, they are hypocritical control freaks with no self-control or sense of proportion. Their behavior is absurd, unreasonable, and nobody would put up with them if they didn't own the forum because they take everything personally and immediately resort to threats the moment someone disagrees with them. So, this guy has screenshots. Let's go take a look at those. One of the things we mentioned before is how we're alert to how people's powers expand out of control, albeit in the context of Magic. The thing that you're doing with the cards isn't part of any description of your character that I've ever seen, nor does it seem to be in your traits or history. Quite the opposite. You specified it's just humanoid shapeshifting. What you're doing is creating ad hoc abilities, what we call powers of convenience. While magic is the most common power of convenience, they can come in a variety of forms. What you're doing is a kind of reality control. There's nothing in the character's description, much less their traits, that suggest he can taste ink, allowing them to read cards in his hand, much less mark them. The smallest diameter of your character, I'm assuming, is about 1 inch, furthermore. Short form, we don't approve of this. This is nowhere near the abilities we approved, and it's not allowed. Going forward, confine your character shapeshifting to the strictly humanoid, and don't give them additional powers, sensory or otherwise. Let me be clear, few players do this. Most players are quite content to stay within the descriptions of their characters. I am not intervening with anyone else like this. I dislike having to intervene this frequently with a player.
Oh my god, this guy's getting just ridiculous. I found you at last. Oh, dude, let's calm down, okay? Let's not do anything rash. First, who are you? Don't you recognize me? I'm the writer of that post that you're reading, and I need something from you. What do you want? I need to know if you completely agree with my Reddit post, like completely wholeheartedly with no reservations. I mean, not really. Based on the DM's messages, you kind of seem like the bad... I blocked everyone in that stupid Reddit thread that I posted. I can block you too. Not if I have anything to say about it. Crispy number 4, do you have the shot?
I'm sorry, sir, I can't take the shot. You've got to move.
Like move where? Who are you talking to? Shush, I'm trying to figure something out. Where do you need me to move? Gotcha. Alright, back to it.
Look, I'm not saying the DM handled this perfectly, but based on how the writer arguing with people in the comments, screaming about how the community is conspiring against him, and blocking anyone who disagrees with him, yeah, I have a feeling this guy didn't handle the situation well either. Look, as a DM, sometimes you gotta make a call. Like somebody saying, hey, I cast Career Destroy Water in the guy's lungs and he instantly dies. Like, no, that's not gonna work. This DM was trying to cap off a problem before it becomes a bigger problem. They're trying to address that players are going beyond the already approved abilities written on their character sheet. This is just another example of that. Yeah, it's small, but it sets a precedent. Look, the writer may have some legitimate criticism of this DM, but the fact that they were blocking people, yelling at people, being argumentative when anyone disagreed with them, or even just asked questions, shows a lot. And I feel like I see tons of cool D&D stuff online, but it's all way outside what I can actually get price-wise. It just sucks. I feel like I'm missing out. Thank God for HitpointPress. This week's videos are sponsored by HitpointPress and their incredible Black Friday sales with some of the best deals I've ever seen on not just the HitpointPress site, but like any D&D site. If you don't know HitpointPress, they are the developers of some of the most creative campaign settings I've ever seen, from the adorable Humblewood to the horrifying Heckna. Look, I love a good Middle-earth ripoff or Azeroth clone, but that's not what HitpointPress is doing. Every single one of their books oozes with creativity and originality, and now you can get the books with giant discounts and possibly free shipping if you order enough of them. Hey, are you a fan of YouTubers like Pointy Hat and Dingo Doodles? Well, guess what? They have books on HitpointPress, and Dingo Doodle's Fool's Gold Adventure is on sale right now, so don't miss out. HitpointPress's Black Friday sales are not gonna last forever, so if you don't want some serious FOMO, head down to the link in the description so you can pick up the amazing products of HitpointPress. Thank you so much to HitpointPress for sponsoring today's video. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us, and without further ado, I'm gonna turn back into an animated rat so that we can get back to the video. I've just recently found your videos, and I've been binging them ever since. Love your content, and it reminds me of my first experience with tabletop role-playing games. Thank you, by the way. There was an app called Amino in a Power Rangers community. This experience was crazy looking back, and had a major problem player game master. I will be using fake names to keep everyone anonymous, as the person who told me about the previous game master was a minor at the time. Here are our MCs. Myself, who's close to the Game Master until I discovered all the crap he was doing. The Game Master, and eventual Red Ranger, as he made them into a GMPC. Silver, the player who I came close to in-game, and who told me everything about Game Master and came in later in the campaign. The premise was simple enough. It's a homebrew Power Rangers campaign, much like the YouTube TTRPG happening at the time, Hyperforce. And I saw a post looking for players. I had been RPing in some of the group chats that were basically redoing the season/teams of the show, and I thought it'd be fun because I was a fan of Hyperforce. I was chosen as the Yellow Ranger, and I was really excited to play out the story. I think I'd be chosen for the Yellow Ranger too. Cut that. We start playing and things seem pretty good. This was all done in the group chat where others of the community could come in and watch/read our gameplay. The spotlight was spread evenly between all the players, each of us having an episode, as we called our sessions, focus on our character, and the game master would private message us to plan out what to do. I became friends with the GM outside of game somewhat, and he was an okay guy. As time went on, some players left, and that's when GM replaced the Red Ranger we had with his own GMPC. There were problems in the community at this time, things about not sharing personal information, basic online safety stuff, as there were other communities I was in that were having similar problems. When Silver came into the game, I was happy to play with their character and see where their story was. I ended up creating a second player character while we searched for a player for it, but the GM asked me to do this. This is sort of where things went out of left field. It was about 2 days after what would become our last session when everyone in the group got a private message from the GM's account from his quote-unquote brother. The brother had said the GM had been killed in a home invasion. We were all devastated and planned to break out of respect for him. Our Black Ranger had volunteered to take over as Game Master when we decided to pick things back up. I was messaging Silver at the time to comfort her, as I knew she was a minor, seeing as I was older than her by a few years. They were like 15, 16? I think I was around in my 20s. This is when I learned the kind of person the GM really was. Silver had been coerced into sending private images and corresponding with private roleplay. Silver had tried to stop this, but GM was blackmailing her into continuing. I felt like crap. I had seen Game Master as a pretty okay guy. He hadn't asked or treated me like he seemed to have been treating Silver, and that made me feel bad as I couldn't protect this child from a predator. Silver had told me not to tell the other players, they didn't want to taint the memory of our Game Master. And I told them I wouldn't tell, but when they feel comfortable, I would back them up if they decided to tell the others. A few days later, I got another message from the Game Master's account, and this time it was the Game Master messaging me. Turns out his home was invaded, but he shot the invader and killed them, but got hit as well, so he's in the hospital. Come on, man.
I know this might come as a shock to you, but my brother, he is dead, killed during an attack on our home. Oh, that's terrible. Also, you look a lot like your brother, just like with a hat. Nonsense, fool! He took on 5 men, single-handedly, unarmed, and defeated all 5 of them. But then he tripped and broke his neck on the side of a table, and now he is dead! Oh, alright. We done here, or? I know you are in grief, so I will take my leave of you. Cool. Thanks, I'm really broken up about it. They will never suspect that it was I the whole time, faking my death. My story was simply too convincing.
Bro, I can hear you, and I knew from the second you showed up in front of me.
Dang it.
He had been in a coma for a few days until his brother was able to figure out he wasn't dead. He was messaging me to explain himself and invite me into a new community he was making because the admins of the other community were also looking into the things he was doing.
And not only that, but you're hitting on like so many minors.
Holy shit.
Dude.
I told him that I had fallen out playing the game, that my college classwork had been taking up most of my time, so I didn't have free time to play with him, let alone be an admin like he wanted me to be for his new community. In reality, I now just had a bad taste in my mouth with Game Master and didn't want to play with him or be associated with him anymore. I was comforting Silver once they learned he was actually alive, and I told them about what had been messaged. Silver and me were friends on Discord for a while after that, but fell out of contact once we both left the community due to other drama that had been happening. I stopped talking or even opening the message that GM was sending me because eventually GM did come back fully. All the other players had discovered what he was doing through other members of the community, so Silver didn't really need to bring up their experience with anyone else. Also, I tried to look up new articles or anything about the home invasion from where he lived, but couldn't find anything at all. Who could have seen that one coming, bro? This experience put me off of any kind of TTRPG for some time, until after I graduated college and met my current best friends and roommates who introduced me to Dungeons & Dragons. I've been playing with them for a few years now, and we just did a one-shot session. Why is that so hard to say? One-shot? God! Fuck! A one-shot session a few days ago, as well as playing a campaign. Thank you for all of your videos, and I know this is more of a calm horror story, but this scared me off of TTRPGs for a long while. Now I'm writing my own homebrew Power Rangers campaign as a fan of both things to this day, and I'm using the stories from your channel as a sort of what not to do and what red flags to look out for. It's important to keep in mind that the stuff we talk about on this channel is usually like the worst of the worst you could possibly experience. Most horror stories are much more tame, but don't invalidate the ones that are bad, because this is bad. It's more like a Discord horror story than a true proper TTRPG horror story. I'm sure all of us have had a creepy Discord mod at some point. Though I will say, a Discord mod that fakes their death to get out of the consequences, I think that's a very, very different ball game. Honestly, with a guy who does something like that, I think ghosting is not a bad mentality to take. You just let them rot. And while they're rotten, you go live your life. Sometimes the best you can do. I don't really watch your channel that much. Very different from the normal opener. And you know what? I really, really respect it. It's really good, just not my normal thing. But I have a friend who's a really huge fan who asked me to submit the story. It was their first real experience with D&D, and everyone who was present at the time now refers to it as the Shussy incident. I don't know what that... Okay, I'm sure I'll find out. It's pretty tame, but it was enough to put me off of TTRPGs for a while until I was able to make friends with another group. When I was 15, I feel like it's relevant for story purposes to mention that I'm AFAB at the time, identified as a girl. I was interested in TTRPGs, but didn't have any friends at that point. The only people I knew who played were my brother and his friends. I expressed interest in my brother, and he told me that his group had just started a new campaign, and they wouldn't mind if I hopped in. I created a character I was really proud of, Shelf, the elven druid who had been raised from birth by a wild flock of sheep. She preferred to spend most of her time as a sheep, and was a quiet person even when not transformed. A clever way to step around my shyness with people who I didn't know very well. The campaign was being DM'd by my brother's friend, Steven, not his real name. I could go into a whole thing about Steven, I really don't like him, but as a brief description, he was a very socially awkward 20-year-old with a habit of lying for no reason and a bad case of foot and mouth disease. I came in disliking him because he was involved in a situation that accidentally led to the death of my family dog. He fed her bad bratwurst? Oh. You know, I wouldn't blame you if I went John Wick on that guy. Don't kill dogs, man! I really wanted to try my new character. My brother told me that he would intervene if anything weird happened. So we start playing, and it went okay for the most part. Everyone was really respectful, aside from a few stray comments from Steve about me being the only girl there. But honestly, those seemed more like him being nervous and not used to girls as opposed to being sexist. They found me stowed away in a ship they were raiding, and I helped them escape. Everyone was rolling terribly. One character even died and had to be hastily re-rolled. But we made it out and headed to the nearest town. Steven gave everyone a very flat, "What do you want to do now in town?" Everyone else had something they were interested in, and I eventually decided to hang out with a local flock of sheep that were being kept near the marketplace. When he described the flock to me, he somehow segued into a no-joke 20-minute rant about sheep anatomy. This is where the Shussy comes. Oh, sheep pussy. I get it now! It was in-depth, ranging from comparative anatomy, the experience having sex with female sheep as opposed to human women. Yo, how do you know that, man? How do you know?
How do you know?
I fucked a sheep boy.
He knew what kind of cultures would be stereotyped as sheep boners, and he knew behavioral ecology, how likely it is that the sheep would enjoy the experience, with anecdotal evidence via something he read on the internet. Yeah, okay. 20 minutes doesn't necessarily seem like a long time, but when you're 15 in an unfamiliar apartment with unfamiliar people and the guy 5 years older than you is talking about the finer points of boning a sheep, by the by, your character is currently transformed into a sheep, and your brother is slowly getting redder next to you as he gets more and more pissed at his friend, and you're shy on a good day, so you have no idea how to respond to this outside of nodding occasionally and praying for it to end. 20 minutes, dude. It's forever. I think when I die, my purgatory will be listening to the Shussy talk. I didn't say anything during this whole time, and I think everyone else in the room was either so used to Steve's BS or just stunned. Anyway, my brother cut him off, and we left pretty quickly after that. I did not return to that campaign. According to my brother, the members of that group, at least the ones that still talk to Steven, still clowning him for the Shussy incident to this day, 7 years later. Deserved. I hate that guy. Look, I am one of those people who can just talk for frickin' forever, and sometimes I just bounce from topic to topic to topic. There's an infamous incident among my friend group where I got really drunk at a party one time, and I ended up talking about the whole history of cold fusion scams and why cold fusion is not a sustainable power source for the planet. I don't care about chemistry, and I have no idea how I got 3 girls to listen to me talk about that for allegedly 30 minutes, but to say the least, I was not talking about something like this. If you go on tangents, that's okay, but please be aware of the tangents you're going on. And if it looks like people would rather take a dip in lava than listen to the tangent, you might want to end the tangent. Where do I even begin with this? I had never once in my life played Dungeons & Dragons before, but I was really into Just Roll With It, the podcast, and I was really interested in trying it out. One day at a parade, I noticed 2 guys with D20 bracelets. Let's call them Jake and Aiden. I walked up to them and struck up conversation about D&D. You struck up a conversation with completely random strangers based on their jewelry? Is this what... God. They were really friendly and gave me their socials. A little while later, they invited me into a campaign that Jake was DMing and Aiden was a player in. It turned out that it was a sci-fi campaign with a lot of homebrew, so I was over my head from the start. But Jake and Aiden helped me to make a character for the setting, and I learned how to play 5th edition in my spare time. Before I knew it, the day of the first session I would be joining had come. I should note here that I'm a girl. All the rest of the group were men. I had a lot of fun at first, mostly because I had no idea what was going on. I would eventually find out that Jake's campaign was originally supposed to be a book, but he liked it so much that he decided to make a campaign out of the book with minimal changes to the plot and structure. Literally, the DM who should have been an author trope. And it was painfully obvious that it was not intended to be a campaign. We were heavily railroaded, and I had to take orders directly from a self-insert character named Knight Zion. I'm not making this up. Okay, I'm sorry. We'll get back to this. But the knight? Like, that's his name? Like, you stare at this little baby and you're like, Knight! Yes! He will be feared by all his enemies! The plot was so convoluted that only Jake himself understood it, and he prided himself on this fact. But all of these constraints and craziness couldn't take away from the magic of my first time playing D&D, and I really enjoyed it for a few months. Then, it started getting weird. Jake had been hyping up the next session as the beach episode. Knight ordered the party to get some much needed rest and relaxation, and brought them to a ship that was basically a space resort. All the main characters were in swimsuits in a pool, there were parties, etc. I didn't really know what to do with the whole thing, and it kind of seemed like it came out of nowhere. Then, Knight started coming onto my character. Anyway, the guy with the cringy ass name started coming onto my character. I was weirded out by this, but the rest of the table were laughing and joking about it, so I kind of went along with it. There was eventually a fade to black moment, and that was that. My character and the DM self-insert had canonically done the deed. Gross. A few more months passed, and I was hanging out at Jake's house one day when he suddenly looked very serious. He asked me if I wanted to go on a date. I wasn't really attracted to him at all, but he was my friend, and I didn't want to break his heart, so I said, I don't really know if I want to be in a relationship right now. And he responded with, oh, you don't need to make any commitments. It's just a date. I felt a little pressured and figured I owed it to him at least one date since he was a good friend to me. So in a moment of weakness, I agreed. The next day, he told the entire table that we were together. Things got really bad from there. He would give me all sorts of special treatment in the campaign, even having sessions that revolved entirely around my character. All the players started to hate me, and I had no real way of explaining to them that I didn't sign up for any of this. Jake started to get really paranoid about me talking to other male members of the group or interacting with their characters too much. Zuko coded.
I don't have any opinion about him. I hardly know him.
You like him, don't you?
He would lash out at them if he thought I was talking to them or their characters more than him. He really is Zuko coded. Sometimes refusing to talk to me at all after the session. Eventually I had enough and broke up with him, even though I hadn't ever been in this relationship by choice. In the moment, he seemed to take it pretty well, and we had a mature conversation about it. Do you hear that? It's a cow, because that's gonna age like milk! The day after, he removed me from the D&D group chat and blocked me. I found out weeks later that he had told everyone that I left of my own accord because I didn't want to be a player in the campaign anymore. The cherry on top, it also turned out that Jake never wanted me in the campaign in the first place. Aiden convinced him to let me join because he thought I was attractive and wanted to get closer to me. And then, after a few weeks of being in the campaign, Jake convinced Aiden to let him ask me out instead. I want to make it perfectly clear. These are two adult men in their 20s. Obviously, I wanted nothing to do with the D&D group after all of this. However, Aiden eventually reached out to me to apologize and informed me that he had kicked Jake out and had a new DM. So, like, happy ending, I guess. Maybe this is an L take from an asexual who's never dated before, but if all you see in a person is someone that you can bone and kiss and that's it, I don't think you should be in a relationship. Like, relationships are more than that. If you can't be friends, then this isn't a real relationship. The friend zone is not a real thing. Even if you are in a romantic relationship, you should still be friends. There's no love without friendship. These guys clearly had no interest in being friends with this person because the moment the relationship didn't work out, they instantly removed her from their lives. This is not the way, guys. Not the way at all. Hey! That's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then you might enjoy this previous episode. It's about some good old-fashioned r/nice guys. It's linked in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, you can go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment, "He was the horror story," to let me know I made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email. It's down in the description down below. Send your stories that way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, in essence, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.
They will not suspect that it will. I can't get this line right. They will never suspect that it was I.